Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and again we are going to be taking a wander round paradise. The weather is absolutely dreich, it's depressing, it's grey, a little bit like man mood after yesterday's performance and result against Kilmarnock. For the first time in 8 attempts, Brendan Rodgers has failed to win a competition that he has entered as Celtic's manager. And let's be honest, going into the game, the performances beforehand weren't the most inspiring, and we spoke about them after the Ross County game and the Aberdeen match as well. We did come through having won both matches, however there were issues, and it was interesting to see the starting lineup coming out, and obviously what then transpired was a poor performance by Celtic and the result none of us wanted. I said last week Kilmarnock was a potential banana skin, and why? Well, a big part of that was down to the fact that we're still trying to implement Brendan Rodgers' style and shape to this Celtic side. I know that he's inherited a treble winning side, but he is changing it in his own fashion and in his own vision, and that's going to take time. We also have lost some first team players, and you know, their replacements have to be bedded in. There's a transitional period underway. The flip side of that is we're playing a team fully confident in Kilmarnock. Derek McInnes has already vowed that he wants to compete against Celtic, he wants to compete against Rangers, he wants to get the monkey off his back and start winning these games. Well, he'd already done that in the opening day by beating Rangers. He followed that up by going to Tynecastle and drawing with Hearts, and then he goes into this game with his team fully confident. It was a perfect storm, a potential banana skin, and we slipped on the banana skin. So the big question is, where did it all go wrong? At the back, Joe Hart has been the subject of some debate around whether or not he is still the man for the job. I think that since we've changed the style coming out from the back to actually clearing the lines rather than tippy-tappying it around the centre-back area, has benefited Joe Hart. I don't think he's been a talking point against Aberdeen or even yesterday. He was not to blame for the goal. There's nothing really he could do about the goal. So I think that Joe Hart is far better suited to this new approach by Brendan Rodgers, whereby he has been given licence to clear his lines. He wasn't an issue yesterday, but the defence itself was. The whole makeup of that defence, we were in a situation where Tony Ralston, of course, is still the backup right back, but he's playing because of the injury to Alistair Johnston. Left back, Greg Taylor. The change in full back shape and approach is not suiting him. That much is absolutely abundantly clear. He had another poor game yesterday. He was out-muscled, he was out-paced, and his passing was really poor. And then you've got the central defensive partnership. Newman, Lagerbielke, marrying up with Nobroski, and you ask yourself the question, how would you expect two guys to get thrown together like that after a couple of training sessions, if that, and to play well? Well, you know this, I actually thought they did play particularly well. However, when Kilmarnock scored, they could do better, and we'll come back to that. A lot has been said about the performances so far of Callum McGregor. The games seem to be passing him by, and a big question would be, why is this? This is a player who's the captain of the club, who we've been able to hang our jackets on for the last 10 years or so, and when the chips are down, McGregor is often the man who grabs the team by the scruff of the neck and pulls us over the line. Last 3 games he's not played particularly well, and that continued against Kilmarnock at the weekend. Why is it? I think it's twofold. I think the fact that Joe Hart now is clearing his lines rather than playing in amongst the central defensive area is definitely affecting Callum, because he would come to the defensive middle two, he would collect the ball, he would start attacks, he would start the transition from there. That's no longer happening. And then secondly, the two fullbacks were overloading the midfield last season under Ange Postecoglou. Now that they're not playing the inverted role, I think we're getting overrun in midfield, and the games are passing Callum McGregor by. The big question yesterday leading up to the game is who was going to partner Callum McGregor in the midfield. Obviously we had the dropping of Rio Atati, followed by the injury to the Japanese international. David Turnbull had come in for the first game and performed really well against Ross County. He had a disappointing first half against Aberdeen, and he was dropped for the game yesterday. You ask yourself the question, who replaces the midfielder in the starting lineup? And I said during the week that Iwata shouldn't be written off. I think there's a physical presence to Tomoki Iwata, and a lot of people maybe are looking at his performances out of position, both at right back and centre half, and saying, well, you know, I wouldn't pick him. But I remember back to last season in the midfield, and in particular against Rangers, he performed really, really well. He wasn't picked yesterday. This is with hindsight. It was Odin Thiago Holm who got the nod. He's obviously impressed Rodgers both at training and during the cameo performances that he has put in since Rodgers arrived at the club. Holm didn't have a particularly bad game. He wasn't the worst performer, but I don't think he added the bit of mettle that we needed against a Kilmarnock side who were going to be physical. And we'll come back to one of the incidents where they got away with one, I'm pretty sure. So the midfield again was overrun. Matt O'Reilly, who has started off so well with 2 goals in 2 games, I thought he looked the most creative from the midfield area, but alas, it was a particularly bad performance all round for the middle of the park. When we go into the wingers, I'm looking at Maeda, Japanese international, and I'm looking at Lila Bada, who is an Israeli international, both with bags of experience. Where were they yesterday? You want them to be the game changer. You want them to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, show the initiative, take on the man, create a chance, or take a chance themselves, and they failed to do it. I'm going to start with Maeda. There was a situation where we were on the attack and Yang, one Kilmarnock defender, and the goalkeeper was between Maeda and the goal. And you think to yourself, if he runs, he uses that pace and that energy, and he runs at the Kilmarnock defence, he can create something at that point, really put them under pressure. He played a ball into nowhere and the attack broke down. It was really disappointing. You then look at Lila Bada, a player who I rate so highly. I think this is going to be his big season for Celtic under Brendan Rodgers. He did nothing to create a chance for Celtic yesterday. These 2 players really need to step up when the chips are down, like they were against Kilmarnock, and they failed to do it. Kyogo, I felt sorry for Kyogo. He tried to make things happen himself. He cannot be the architect and the executioner of chances. He needs support up there, and he didn't get it. And unfortunately, when things weren't working, we didn't have an option off the bench. We couldn't mix it up like we used to with Giakoumakis on the bench, or even Big O, who is injured. So I think that leads us into the transfer business and the opinions among Celtic fans as to who needs to come in and when. But before I do that, let's have a wee look at some of the decisions yesterday. Yeah, it was a terrible performance, and no, we didn't deserve to win the game. Kilmarnock deservingly won the game, and they can celebrate and they can enjoy it. However, 2 decisions in particular. Firstly, Greg Taylor was taken out by Danny Armstrong, and not much was made of that. He wasn't booked and he wasn't sent off, but when you watch it back, there was an elbow. It was definitely something for me that could have resulted in a sending off. It didn't happen, and of course, Greg Taylor's off the park injured when Kilmarnock scored their goal. There's 3 moments that could have prevented that goal from being scored. The first one is the advancement of play, and I look at Nawrocki and I've been very impressed with him. He didn't attack the player strongly enough. He allowed them far too much distance to run and carry the ball. By the time it goes down Taylor's side, and Taylor's missing obviously, we cannot allow them to cross that ball in. We did. That was mistake number 2. And then of course, following the runner, and you've got to look at Lagerbielke for that, who didn't follow the runner, and Watkins scores the goal. Kilmarnock win the game and progress into the next round of the League Cup. So there are 2 issues for me. The second one is Haksabanović's penalty shout, and again he went down twice. I know he wasn't on the park that long. He went down twice. He was supposedly diving when he was taken down near to the Kilmarnock goal. There was definite contact. You can see it in the still image. But what I want from Haksabanović is I want him to create a chance, and he didn't do that when he came on. So yeah, we could argue that there was a penalty shout, but I'm not going to labour the fact due to the fact that Celtic were so poor. So yesterday's performance and results showed that Brendan Rodgers still needs to do some surgery on this Celtic side. He's got 10 days to do it, and he actually spoke about recruitment last week and after the game yesterday. He spoke about the fact that he coaches and develops the players he's presented with. I found that quite interesting because I don't think that was the tact that he approached the job with first time round, and in actual fact recruitment may well have been one of the deciding factors in his departure. He was unhappy with the quality of some of the players he was presented with, and quality is what he was talking about yesterday after the game. He needs to add quality to the Celtic team. Where does he add the quality? Well, at the moment I'm looking at the squad, and I still think we need another goalkeeper in there to challenge Joe Hart. If we had gone into that game yesterday with Bain or Siegrist in goals, it would have been even worse. It's as simple as that. We need someone to challenge Hart. As well as he's been playing, under Rodgers' new system and the new approach to playing out from the back, now being replaced with clearing your lines. That suits Joe Hart. We don't need to do anything on the right-hand side or in the central defensive area. We've already strengthened there. But at left back, unless we're going to change the role of the fullbacks, we're going to have to strengthen at left back. Greg Taylor has not transferred his form from last season into his time under Brendan Rodgers, and that is a big concern. He was an excellent player under Ange Postecoglou. He looks like a shadow of his former self under Brendan Rodgers. Moving into the midfield, where is the physicality? I think that you lose Hatate, and it shows. You know, Turnbull came in and had one good game, and then he was replaced by Holm yesterday. And although Holm didn't have a particularly bad game, he didn't give us the physicality we require, both domestically and also in Europe. We talk about Europe. We need to strengthen this team domestically as well. I think that when you look at the wings, we were weak on the wings. Maeda and Abada didn't show up yesterday. What if that happens? Well, we've got Yang that you can bring on. We need someone else who's a natural left-sided winger to strengthen that area of the park. And what about if Kyogo's not getting the service? We saw it yesterday, whereby he's trying to create his own chances. He's trying to go deep, sometimes too deep, to create them. We need a different type of striker up top. The type of striker that I think O can become, and if there is one available, we need to go out there and make that also a priority. I want to see another 3 or 4 coming into the building. Whether or not that happens, I don't know, because when I'm looking at that squad yesterday, I'm thinking if it doesn't happen with 3 or 4, this is going to be a rebuild job into the second transfer window in January, by which time who knows what the position will be in the league, which is our priority this season. One final thing, just as I came up here to Celtic Park, I was approached by the gentleman who goes by the name on the comment section of Acsom, the Tobago Street Police Department CSC, and he came up with me for the purposes of giving me a couple of Celtic jerseys. He's heard about the initiative of Sell the Jerseys for wee Jamie Tierney. He gave me a couple of Celtic jerseys. He also gave me a donation for the cause as well. Thank you to everybody who's supporting that charity initiative. We're going to keep pushing for wee Jamie. We want 100 jerseys. We're going to get them signed up, framed up, and hopefully we can pay for the wee man's treatment over a period of 12 months. That has been a wander round paradise. I'll tell you what, the weather's not been great, but neither was yesterday's performance. Join a Celtic State of Mind again tomorrow at 12:30 for the Acsom Bulletin.